Hi, this is Donna Blevins, the big girl of poker, and I am thrilled to have one of my favorite people in the poker industry, Matt Savage, with us. He is a co-founder of the Tournament Directors Association, and I brought him on today because I want him to tell you and share with you about the upcoming summit in 2019. Go, you've got the platform, Matt.
Well, our upcoming TDA summit is our 11th summit, I believe, which I think you were at the first one. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we had 24 people that attended the first one. This year, it's probably going to be attended by about 200 card room managers, tournament directors, and players from around the world. So we're real excited about that. It's going to be June 28th and 29th at the ARIA Casino. And Sean McCormack and Paul Campbell over there have done us a great service by giving us a ballroom that we can use so that we can help make the industry better. And that's what we've always been about in the TDA, is trying to get things consistent so the players can go from casino to casino, property to property, and have consistency with the rules. So I've always said that it's very important for players to know the rules. These guys are playing for life-changing money every day. And, if you're going to have something that's going to be that important to so many people, you got to have standardized rules.
You're absolutely correct, because in 2000, when my husband and I closed our real estate office and we decided we were going to go in our motorhome and do poker motorhoming, and we decided we were going to play in every card room in the United States, and we only got to 100 in 2000, by the way.
Wow.
And what we discovered was that the biggest problem was that you had to check what the rules were when you went in. It's like, what are the rules here? And when in 2001, when you said, hey, let's create some consistency, I highly approved. And thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, when I went to the World Series for the first time I ever stepped into the World Series in 2001, I went there and said to the tournament director, I said, hey, let's try and standardize the rules. Basically, he kind of scoffed at me and said, it's been tried before. It's never going to happen. But luckily, Linda Johnson and Jan Fisher and Dave Lamb were supportive of it. And Linda had the World Poker Industry Conference back then. And so we just tied it on to the end of that. And again, we only had 25 card room managers, TDs from around the country at that time. And to see what it's grown into right now, it's really makes me happy. It's kind of my legacy. So I'm very proud of it. And I think that's something that's really helped the industry grow.
It is. It's fabulous, and I just want to give you an applause. I won't clap my hands right here, but that's what I'm doing because I highly approve of it, and it's been something that I've been so serious about all my life. And tell us, what do you think? Give us two things that you think will be the biggest issue at the summit. And by the way, I want to share with everyone what happens at the summit every 2 years is that tournament directors come in, and then there's a few poker players that are there as well, but it's from global tournament directors from around the world, and they look at the rules and they bring up things that have been issues this past 2 years. My goodness, if it every year we wouldn't be able to do poker because it is a very time-consuming summit. So it's important that people look at what's happening in the industry. So tell us two things that you believe will be the top issues at the summit this year.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, let me explain a little bit more. What it usually is that we get about 80 to 90% of people that agree with, the way something is being done, and 10% that don't. And so we ask that 10%, can we push them over the line? Can we get them to agree to use it for the good of standardization? And, we've been very successful with that. My friends always tease me. They say, we'll just do it Matt's way. We don't have to listen to anybody else, but it's not really true. So this year, there's going to be some big things coming up. And, one of them is something that's kind of taken over the industry, which is big blind ante. And unfortunately, not everybody does it the same. And that's one of the things that's going to be the biggest topic. And I don't want to get bogged down with it and have a bunch of arguments about it, but I know that some people are still doing a big blind ante, and some people are doing a button ante, and some people are doing 3 blinds, and some people are doing the old system of not changing and having an individual ante. But big blind ante, for me, really has created not only a new dynamic, but has made it so much easier for the tournament directors, the dealers, and especially the players. You're not stuck in that mode of having the 3 things that happen the most. People saying who didn't ante, or you have to call the floor for that, and then you have to check surveillance and all of that just for an ante. You don't have the dealers, tapping the table and saying, hey, look, why didn't you ante, or could you please ante because they're on their phone or they're not paying attention. And it's one of those things that, and there's no change being made. So those are the three things I think are the key to this. And your players are getting more hands. The structures are becoming better because they're getting more hands. And I think that's a big part of why it's so great.
So let me ask you, because I know that there's some people that don't understand it or don't really understand it. As a matter of fact, when we did our pre-call, we thought it was going to be recorded, but I'm glad it's today. And you explained it to me, and because I'm in Florida, I've been caring for my mother for quite a while and have been traveling, and I have not competed in any area that has the big blind ante. So would you please explain in a simple form, and I know that there's several different ways to do it, but why don't you pick the one that makes the most sense, because now I understand it.
Well, I would like to say that the one that makes most sense is the way I do it. And then what we do is we have the big blind as normal. So let's say it is 6 and 1200. I'll use this example all the way through. So it's 6 and 1200. 600 for the small blind, 1200 for the big blind, and the ante is posted by the big blind as well. It's an additional 1200. So the big blind is posting the 1200 ante and the 1200 big blind. Now people get freaked out by that, and they want to say, well, why am I posting so much? This is so much of a disadvantage for somebody in the big blind. But it's not. You have to consider it this way. That 1200 is dead. And again, if we use a 612 with a individual ante, it would be 200. That means if you had a 9-handed table, you would be putting up 1800 per round. Now you're only putting 1200 per round. So it's dead in the pot. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to see it as any other way but the ante. But I think that there's still a lot of players out there that get freaked out by it and think that it's them paying twice as much as they would before. It's actually less. So for that respect, I think it actually is a new dynamic to the game as well, meaning that it speeds up the game and players are actually paying less, but getting more hands. So there's more action and it makes the game better.
That is fabulous. Then players are paying less and they are getting more hands.
Correct.
So what adjustments should players make when they have a short stack?
Well, that's another topic that's going to come up because people are doing this different ways, and it's going to be one that's going to be argued and probably not going to come to a resolution at the TDA, unfortunately. And wait a minute.
I want to interrupt you because I work with mind shifting and word choosing. I want to say, if you say something's going to be a problem at the summit, I guarantee it will. I would like for you to speak it differently, please.
Okay. So the correct way to do it, I believe, wholeheartedly believe, that is the way that I do it. And one of the things that comes up is, should it be ante first or big blind first? Okay. And why that is an issue at all is if you are short stacked. Okay. So if you're short stacked, again, if it's 6 and 12, and let's say you only have one chip left and you are in the big blind, the ante goes first for me, not the blind. If the blind went first, you would win $100 or 100 chips for everybody that's in the pot. So let's say there was 9 players in the pot, you would win 900. But the correct way, in my opinion, what I believe is right, is that it's ante first. And the reason it's ante first is because antes have always come first. If it was individual ante, you would put your ante up. And again, you would win that 900 per play for the entire table because everybody anteed 100. But listen to this. What happens is if you have big blind first, and you put in 100, that's all you can win back. Sounds bad, sounds tragic, but you got to look at it the other way. The other 8 hands that you are not in the big blind, and you only had 100, you put it in the pot, you get 100 from each player, but you also get the 1200 ante from the big blind. Why? Because you put the ante in first. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it big blind. If you had it big blind first, in my opinion, you should not be able to win the ante when you are short, right? But with ante first, you win that ante even though you're not in the big blind and you haven't put it up, because you've already met your obligation for the table in my eyes, meaning that you are going to win that big blind ante and 100 from each player at the table. So some players are having a problem with this. They say it's unfair. I believe if you do big blind first, it's unfair because you are taking advantage of people because you're short stacked. So the new dynamic is that it creates more action. If you see that big blind coming to you and you are short, you got to get it in. And as a player, and as a tournament director, and as a dealer, and as everybody, you want short stacks to go broke. And people say, no, I don't. I want the short stack to win. I think that's a bunch of nonsense.
No, I only want the short stack to win. That's me. That's the only short stack that I want to win.
That's right.
You
The
know,
only time you want the short stack to win is when you are the short stack.
That's exactly right. You know, we want to get players out so we can get higher up in the scale. I mean, that's where we want to go. We want to go to the final table, get people out the door.
Right. And I had to explain this. I had an argument on Twitter because, you know, Twitter is where people argue. I had an argument with Daniel Negreanu saying that new players we're going to lose recreational players because of this rule, and I don't believe it. You know, once people know and understand why it is the way it is, I think the players will get a grip on it. And it's created a new dynamic. Big Blind Ante has created a new dynamic for the game. And I want to say that there's another way that you can actually use this as part of your strategy. Again, let's say you are out of the big blind and you have 7 more hands before it comes to you in the big blind, but you're short. You move all in. Leave yourself with 1 chip. Why? Because for the next 7 hands, you can win 100 from each player and the big blind and the ante from the entire table. So you can really chip up. Again, 1200. If you have 100 and you're out of the big blind, you could actually win 100 from each player, 900 plus 1200 from the ante that's posted by the big blind ante. And you can actually turn 100 into 2100, putting you right back in the tournament.
That's
People
fabulous.
don't know about that, but it's going to be something that's going to come up at some point. So I think there's going to be probably, you know, some of these guys that are teachers and professionals are going to be able to teach people that that is a new dynamic to the game. And, you know, I'm not totally opposed to poker having a new dynamic. I think you need to mix things up every once in a while.
Absolutely. There has to be change. I mean, people, when we're static, we just grow old, and we don't want to grow old. And let me share the TDA, pokertda.com membership site, and you can join for free. This is what it looks like. You can scroll down and see the information about the upcoming summit. And if you have any questions, it says go to this page, but then it says go ahead and email over at the TDA forum, or go ahead and email tdagroup@pokertda.com if you have a question or something that you would like to see addressed at the summit.
Yes. Okay, now I'm going to get to issue number 2 that's going to come up with the summit for this. It's not going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue. How about that?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me mind shift your words.
Antes should never reduce all the way until the end of the tournament, in my opinion. Okay, meaning that with the big blind ante, you have an ante in the pot every hand, even heads up. Why? It creates more action. And, you know, me as a poker player, I play for the action. But it's also a different dynamic to the game, meaning that there's more money in the pot to play for, so you get more action, you get more people playing, and it also makes the structure deeper and better when you continue to do that. Now, some places aren't going to do that. Some places are going to reduce. I know that the Wynn reduces their ante, and I believe maybe even the Venetian. The World Series of Poker is not. We have formed a team, me, myself, Tony Burns from Seminole Hard Rock, Ben Irwin from Thunder Valley, Justin Hammer from the Commerce, Paul Campbell from the ARIA, Jordan Cutter from the Golden Nugget, and we call it Team Never Reduce. Jesse Hollander from Best Bet as well. So some of the biggest poker room managers and tournament directors around the world have formed a team called Team Never Reduce, meaning we never reduce the ante all the way to the end. And again, that's going to be one issue that's going to be argued, probably not come to a resolution, but maybe we can do it at this year's TDA.
You know, what I would love to do is to get all of those guys on a Zoom call with us so we can like shout it out. You think we could get them? Now,
Possibly.
Speaking of increased action, are we going to be seeing a shot clock, but you're calling it something else than a shot clock? Are we going to see it more and more?
Yeah, the action clock is something we use on the World Poker Tour already. We use it when we'll run table outside the money. A lot of players have expressed interest on the World Poker Tour that we use it from the very start because they really like not only that it speeds the game up, but it, you know, again, another dynamic to the game. But, you know, one of the issues that's a problem for poker these days is that, you know, people are playing too slow, and it's killing the enjoyment for some of the people that play poker, and it's unfortunate. You know, you don't want to sit at a table where a guy is just tanking every time, not looking at his cards, and then wasting time when it gets to him. It's really one of those things that really creates a lot of bad, I don't know, bad feelings towards players that maybe shouldn't have because they're taking so much time and ruining it for others. So I feel like we need to do something about that. The action clock that we use for the World Poker Tour is really taking a step in the right direction. But I also think that tournaments that aren't using it and the fact that we've raised the stalling, I think has really helped as well. So I think, it's one of those things that's kind of correcting itself already because players are getting called out for taking too much time. People are calling clocks on those players. So, I think that the action clock and things that we've done with the World Poker Tour have really helped.
So it actually makes poker a better spectator sport.
Correct. That's also true. But more fun too. I'm all about making poker fun. Some of the things that I've done and structures and different kind of formats that I've used have been to make poker fun. And I think that it's one of those things that we can do to help everybody and help card rooms and get people out playing poker.
Well, I have to share with you something that Jan Fisher wanted to throttle me about, by the way, when I said this is what I do. And I have what I call the 6-second rule, because when the cards are dealt, forgive me, I wait to look at my cards until it's my action because I'm paying attention to other people. When I look at the cards, I take 6 seconds to look at the cards, not 30. I take 6 seconds, and it has to do with memory recall, and it has to do with not giving off a clue. If I get aces, I realized this when I was at in Tunica at Binion's at the Horseshoe when I won my first tournament. I was in the middle of the tournament, and it was one of the afternoon tournaments in an event. Buy-in was like $250, but they were like 400 people. Thank goodness, I like that. And I'm just started to look at the cards, and we're in the middle, and I have just a little less than average. And I looked at my cards, and I got aces, and I snapped, and I heard the snap. And I all of a sudden looked around, and there were people all around saying, "Who had the aces?" And I realized that we give those clues. And I realized that it was important for me to be able to take consistency. So I have the 6-second rule. 6 seconds is not 30 seconds to make a decision. It's just that I actually use it with doing poker therapy for the traumatic brain injury veterans as well, because they need the time to be able to digest and just say the number, the card and the suit 3 times to yourself. It takes about 6 seconds, and it's a consistency that I have developed in my game.
Right. Some people will say that if you looking at your cards first, now you can take a look at everybody around you, and when it gets back to you, they're not seeing what you're doing because they're not focusing on you. They're focusing on their own cards. So I know there's a little bit of both of that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure which way is better, to be honest.
I know. Well, I wanted to develop my poker face so that I was consistent regardless of what I had. So I did that. There is some controversy regarding table talk lately. Too little is boring to watch. Too much is dangerous for the game integrity. What are your thoughts, and how do you strike the right balance as a tournament director?
I'm at kind of a unique position with that because, from the beginning of, the TDA, we've had a rule that you are not allowed to disclose the contents of your hand. And again, arguments I've had with players, Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth. By the way, Daniel Negreanu's wedding last night was a lot of fun. You should check it out on my Facebook page if you want to take a look. It was a good time.
I will.
Yeah, it was that they should be able to say whatever they want. And the problem I have with that is, sure, at those levels where they're playing and they know, we know, everybody knows, the tournament director, the dealers, they all know that these players are not colluding. They're not cheating when they're talking about the contents of their hand. The problem is when you go down to the bottom levels to where people are playing daily tournaments, $20 daily tournament, and there's 2 people in the tournament that know each other and say, "Don't call me, I have aces," and then the other player folds his hand, that is collusion. So if we open it up from the top level, it's got to go all the way down to the bottom level, right? If we're the TDA, if we're doing something the same for everyone. That's always been my issue with it. I let more table talk get away with than I would suggest others do because I am pretty well aware of who the players are and what they're saying and what they're doing. But I think that, us having that rule of non-disclosure at the table has protected a lot of people from just open collusion. So, it's been a tough topic for me over the years, and the game has changed so much. But I agree. Table talk is fun. It makes the game more interesting. And, I am for more fun. So I let a little bit more of that go than maybe others do. And again, I don't suggest it being a full disclose the contents of your hand rule. But again, if you are a good TD, a solid tournament director or card room manager, your players, you can let a little bit more of that get away. That's
so
sure.
I want to keep this short and sweet today. So I'd like for you to share. You're looking at your clock up there, apparently.
I'm actually opening more tables for a tournament. I'm running a tournament.
Oh, you are?
I had to open up more tables.
You're over. Yeah, I love you. You're coming here and visiting with us, and you're actually. You are so cool. I love you. I want you to know how much I'm giving you a big girl virtual hug right here, right now.
Awesome.
So
I got $1 million guarantee I got hit today, so I'm nervous, but it is what it is.
And you are where?
I'm
today?
at the Commerce Casino.
Yep, one of my favorites, and
yeah,
give them all my love. And why don't we leave today with? Can you come up with one suggestion for poker players to help up level the game? What would you suggest poker players do across the board?
Something I've really stressed lately is, like I said, fun and joy. I mean, if it's your profession, I understand you have to take it a little more serious. But if you're a recreational player, like I know a lot of your viewers are, just have fun. It's not the end of the world if you lose a hand, and just try and enjoy it. That's why I started playing poker, was for the enjoyment. I'm not a professional by any means, but when I get a chance to play, I do, and I love it. But grumpy players they're a real problem. They scare away others, and people and casinos, I think, don't realize it. They try and there's so much competition out there, and there's tournaments all across the country. But I think if you root out the bad players that are causing problems, I think you're going to get more people at your casino, your property, and make the game more enjoyable for everybody. That's one thing I like to stress. The other one is satellites. I think that satellites are so important to the game. I'm really making a focus on the World Poker Tour of having steps tournaments to try and get, the $100 player into the big tournament so that they can have life-changing money. I would love nothing more than to see the amateurs, recreational players, especially women, winning more poker tournaments. That would be so much better for the game. I'm really after trying to women's issues to try and get them to feel more comfortable with the game, more comfortable coming to casinos. I know you're tough. You're a tough one, but not everybody's as tough as you, Donna. So, treat people right at the table and don't talk about politics.
Mother always said, do not talk about politics, do not talk about religion. Those were her rules, by the way.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want you to let this may be a 6'5" tall body, but I am a little girl inside. I have a soft heart, and it was hard for me to figure out how to ramp up my game. I felt like it was hard. It was not hard. It was a challenge for me to learn the game. But I want to tell you right here, I don't think I've ever shared this with you, that poker literally saved my life in 1996.
Wow.
Yeah, I was. We owned a real estate company in Florida, on the Gulf Coast, and I was the management broker for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I took custody of properties that the VA had acquired because of the foreclosure process in 5 counties in Southwest Florida. I took custody of 257 properties in one day, and you can imagine the stress that I was under daily. I mean, I had to learn how to handle contractors. I had to write specifications. We had to bring properties up to federal habitability standards. And when poker was when card tables were first put in the bingo halls of the Seminoles in 1996, there was an article about it in our little tiny weekly newspaper. And I said to Gregory, I said, would you teach me how to play poker? And you could see his wheels go. He never said anything. He was going, oh, it's a guy's game. In 96, remember now, it's a guy's game. And then I could see him go, well, if she learns to play and likes it, then I'll be able to play more. And he said, yes, I'll teach you. Sitting there at the table, what happened was, it was only a few weeks after I started. I'm sitting there in a hand. And I started with 7-card stud, by the way. So, and I'm sitting there looking at my cards and my hole cards. and I'm thinking about everything that had been going on around me, and I'm, worried about what the contractor had done and what had I done wrong, and then I'm thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, and all of a sudden it was like the universe gave me this smack on the face, on the head, the forehead slap. You've had some of those, I guess, when the
Oh
universe
yeah,
says, "Hey,
for
wake
sure.
up." And all of a sudden I realized in that moment what I heard was, there's only one thing that exists. That's the cards that you have. There's only one reality in life, and that's the hand that you're in right now. And in that moment, I had this huge epiphany that was a mega mind shift. I realized that it is the only thing that exists is right now in this moment. Nothing else existed. And in that moment, I went into the zone when everything else seemed to dim around me. And I went into that place of calm and mindfulness, and it literally was life-changing for me. I believe without poker, I would have been dead from stress today.
Oh my God. Well, that's a great story. I really, I think that's why people need to not stress out so much about playing poker. I think it needs to be more fun, it needs to be more enjoyable, and it's going to make the game better for everybody.
So, can anyone attend the summit?
Anyone can attend the summit, but the problem is that we've already almost reached capacity. So we don't want to shut anybody out. So we're trying to get all the card room managers, directors, and a specific number of players that we have. We're going to have probably about 10 to 15 players, people that bring up issues that they want to discuss, and they kind of have to have an agenda of their own to come in there and do that. But yeah, so it's open, and we are going to live stream it, so you'll be able to watch if you aren't able to attend. And of course, we'd like everybody to be able to attend, but unfortunately, we just don't have the space.
And so, what is your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is @SavagePoker. You can reach me there pretty much 24/7, and I answer ruling questions, and I usually get a lot of them during the summer. But just a reminder, don't put the property that you're at, because I don't want to call somebody out for making a bad ruling.
And how do they watch the stream?
It'll be on Twitch, so just look for that on the Poker TDA website, and we will announce that as soon as we have a link for it, and we'll put it up there so everybody can watch from home and comment, because there's a lot of times I answer questions, and we've actually had rules come up and be changed because of somebody that was in the chat. So
Fabulous.
Happy for you guys to get out there and be involved, and let's make it happen.
So it's go to pokertda.com.
That is correct.
Matt Savage, I want to thank you so much for coming, and let me know how I can help you in the future.
Of course, Donna, and thank you. Anytime.
This is Donna Blevins, the big girl of poker, signing off. Bye-bye.